Hi there, I'm here with Samuel Hulick. Hi, Sam.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well.
Thanks for chatting with me today. I'm excited to let our attendees get to meet you and talk a little about user onboarding today.
Excellent.
So, I guess first off, tell me a bit about yourself. You started a company, you were focusing on customer acquisition for a while, and then eventually user onboarding. Can you kind of tell me what that journey's been like for you?
Sure. So I would say my career really started as a UX consultant several years ago. And, I was always really interested in actually measuring the impact of the redesigns that I was recommending, seeing how they affected conversion rates and things like that, as opposed to just making things more fun or pleasant or things along those lines. And so that really led me to focus specifically on conversion rate optimization and in product UX like user onboarding, where you can see impact on conversion rates within a funnel and things like that, right? Pretty apparently.
Great. Yeah, it's definitely one of the things that we focus on a lot here is measuring what the impact is for sure.
hmm
So I know you were with Cloudability for a while, which you mentioned was a startup at the time, or gave you at least some perspective on that. Can you talk about what perspective you've gained from that experience and what you brought into thinking about the elements of user onboarding?
Sure. So prior to joining Cloudability, I was heading up UX at an agency, and I wanted to move away from like more brand engagement type projects and more onto ongoing, iterative kind of efforts where I would be able to once again measure the impact and change things over time, as opposed to just kind of having one shot at it. And so that's what led me to join up at Cloudability. And my role there actually was not specifically user experience; it was a customer success role. So I was looking at the broad spectrum of the customer experience, and also helping out with customer support and looking at reporting growth rates, metrics, and things along those lines, like churn and retention, things like that. So looking at kind of beyond just the user experience, but the whole company experience.
Great, yeah, and I imagine in that customer support, customer success role, you really do get a lot of insight on the struggles and the pain points that customers are coming up against.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I'd be curious to get your perspective on the Comcast situation at some point.
Right. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, I think that I might have gone off on a little tangent, but your initial question was like how that relates to user onboarding,
Yeah.
where that was something. It was enterprise heavy, so as far as the experience was concerned, so we could really invest a lot of, I guess, for lack of a better term, human resources and actually following a specific sign up as it occurred, and then did they take this action within the first half hour? If not, send them a personal email or jump onto a live chat or a screen share and help walk them through things. So I kind of was the onboarding in some ways. And then looking, basically taking those kind of experiences and trying to turn those into interface changes that would scale out for everybody.
hmm Yeah, and one of the other things that you talk about in your book, at least, is setting customers up for success even before they initially sign up. Can you share some insight around that?
Sure. So there's kind of a general term in the web app realm of the aha moment, which typically comes where if you line up a demo for your product, and then 5 minutes into the demo, people are like, oh, well, now I get what you do. Or they start a trial, and through clicking around in your interface, you're kind of hoping that everything will kind of click into perspective for them, and they'll be like, oh, I understand what you do. And my recommendation is to front load the experience, that aha moment, as much as possible. So preferably, instead of relying on whatever dwindling amount of people are actually making it far enough into your interface to kind of unlock what it means to them, specifically just telling them upfront beforehand. So you're speaking to a wider amount of people because there are more people coming to your marketing site before they kind of filter through. And then also they have in a focused momentum behind them, that they're motivated in a way that is within the context of what you're providing as an application. So they know what they're doing. I kind of use an analogy like you wouldn't just tell someone to start kneading dough and simmering tomato sauce and then hope that it becomes a pizza. You would tell them like this is a pizza beforehand, and then once they have the context, they would know what to do, through the rest of the recipe.
Sure, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Actually, as I was signing up for Slack today, per my tweet, I think you
Uh-huh.
saw, I was actually reading your teardown as I was going through that process because I was still kind of a little put off, even though I know there's tons of cues and copy and things like that throughout their process, which was fantastic.
Hmm.
It was definitely helpful to have the outside perspective too. What do you think it is about their experience that makes it so, I mean, highly regarded?
Well, I think that the two things that really stand out to my mind in the Slack experience are one, that there's personality to it, where I can't remember the specific wording, but there's something like, you can talk to me, but I'm kind of dumb, so you might have to use, simple words or something along those lines. So there's a humility and an affability to it that I think people find resonant. And then the other main thing that I think it really has going for it is that the product uses itself to explain itself. So you're, instead of pointing to different interface elements or buttons and saying this does this or this does that, it actually asks you to start chatting in order to fully set up your account, as opposed to making it two completely discrete experiences. So I think that having that integration and then also having that human warmth are two things that people find really endearing, and it helps really connect them to the experience right away.
Yeah, I can see that. That definitely makes sense. And I think that's one of the things that really resonates about the MailChimp experience. I know you've had some conversations with the UX guys over at MailChimp and also Kiss Metrics I saw on Twitter and just some really standout companies. What are some of your favorite takeaways from those conversations?
Well, I would say that Mailchimp specifically, each of those companies makes me think of different qualities as like their most prominent. Mailchimp is definitely something that I think of being really personality driven. Specifically like designing with emotion or designing for emotion, the Aaron Walter book and things along those lines. That's something that you can really apply to, I think, any web experience, whether it's an application or not. Kissmetrics, speaking with Heaton Shaw, very focused on conversion rates and running split tests and things like that. One of my favorite parts of the conversation with him was, a lot of times when you're running a split test or an A/B test, and there's sort of a concern that maybe people are already used to one version as opposed to the other, and that might be skewing your results. But one great thing about onboarding is it's almost like a petri dish where it's the first experience that somebody's having either way, so you don't have that sort of familiarity bias in place. And so he kind of described it like having a bunch of kids and practicing how to raise them over and over again. So I really like that as well, and things along those lines. And then obviously Twitter, speaking with Josh Ellman, who not only at Twitter but at LinkedIn and Facebook Connect and things like that. Super, just a really brilliant mind as far as being really studious about growth and rigorous with experimentation and things along those lines.
Definitely. Well, so looking beyond the initial onboarding experience, you'll be collaborating with Toby Starrett from Simple
Hmm.
during your peer huddle at Delight, and Simple is definitely known for kind of their support throughout the experience. What do you hope that attendees will take away from your huddle?
Well, I hope that people can take away some actionable pieces of advice where they'll be able to not only be inspired to go back and make change, but actually have a to-do list of things that they can go back and start implementing right away. Even if you're very early on or don't have a lot of design resources to apply to your onboarding experience, there are certain 80/20 type things that you can start doing right off the bat that I'm really excited to share, and really hope that people start putting into practice as quickly as possible.
Excellent. And what are you looking forward to at the conference?
Well, I'm a Delight audience member in the
Oh,
past
that's
myself,
right. Yeah.
so I really enjoyed Delight a lot. As far as you would think that a UX conference would have a good user experience in of itself, and that's certainly the case. So I'm looking forward to getting to hear what everybody else has to say, and just enjoying a really positive experience all around.
Great. Yeah, actually, it will be a little bit of a different experience, not only because you're speaking, but we've added on a handful of different parties and events and cool stuff happening. So you have that to look forward to as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I look forward to having you out and actually meeting you in person. Or actually, I mean, not having you out, you're in Portland already, but having you at the conference, and I look forward to seeing you there.
I look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks so much, Samuel. We'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right, bye bye.